Hey everybody. All right, so this is a tricky one. So I want you to think about this as we talk. So when stories are told, the narrator, the person who's telling the story when the characters are not speaking, is either in the story or they're not in the story, right? So we call that first person if they're in the story. Let me give you an example. So here are the two types of narration we could have. First person, you see the box? The story has all the characters in it, including Jamal, right? He's in the story. He's telling you about, I went to the field. We got into the plane. He is in the story. Then there are other stories where the narrator is watching. Maybe I like to think of it like through a window. And you can see what the characters are doing. And you might say, oh, did you see that? He went over to the sink. They are going outside. The narrator is witnessing what's going on in the story. And they're telling you about it. So there are two different kinds of narration that I want you to focus on today. Either they're in the game, in the story, in the action, and they're saying, you won't believe what happened to me. Or they're outside and they're watching and they're telling you about a good story, but they weren't there. Or at least they weren't involved. Does that make sense? Now, how can you tell the difference? Well, one of the biggest clues is in the pronouns. So the first rule of thumb is you don't want to use the dialogue because dialogue is going to throw you off. So don't use anything inside of a speech bubble or inside of a quotation mark. But use just the normal text of the story. So just find a paragraph that's describing what's happening and look to see who's telling the story. Okay? So this first part is all written in one point of view. Okay, and we're going to figure out what that point of view is. And then this second part is written in a different point of view. And we're going to talk about what that point of view is. So let's see if we can't figure out the difference here. So this first one says, through the window, Jamal was 12. He first flew, right? He asked to fly, his first flying lesson. He did it. He loved it. He became. He describes. This is obviously someone watching Jamal do these things. So this first part is what is called third person. Someone is watching you from outside the story. But then there's a shift. And you know that because the pronouns change. I'm going to change my color. I remember. Who's I? The person in the story. I watched. We hopped in. I really can't believe it. I'm, I. These pronouns tell you that we're not third person anymore because he's in the story. I remember it. So this is a different type of point of view. So this first one, someone was outside looking in. This second part, someone was inside telling about the story they had. Okay? Now, what I would like you to do for me is I have a story. It's called My Dog. I would like you to read the passage and go through and circle all the pronouns that you can find. Okay? Is this told as a first person story or is it a third person story? Okay? Is the person in it or are they just watching? You have to be a pronoun detective. You're going to find the pronouns like I, me, right? And you are going to circle them all and try to figure out who's telling the story. Remember, a pronoun is a word that stands in for a noun, right? Good luck. I can't wait to hear your thinking about pronouns and point of view. Thanks, guys.